I was doing my daily doom scroll through X. Then I read, according to psychology, people with avoidant attachment will finally meet someone who treats them well, makes them feel safe, and actually wants consistency, then suddenly start focusing on flaws, pull away emotionally, and convince themselves the relationship doesn't feel right. Because deep down, intimacy feels more threatening than loneliness. The avoidant attachment style. Think of it like a faulty smoke detector. Instead of warning you about actual danger, it screeches at the first sign of warmth, closeness, or genuine affection, making you bolt for the nearest emotional exit. It's a protection mechanism that's long outlived its usefulness, but it's still running the show. Here's the uncomfortable truth. It's less about them and more about a deeply wired program running in your brain, silently sabotaging the very connection you might secretly crave. And the weirdest part, you're often not even aware you're doing it until it's too late. This isn't some moral failing. This is the avoidant attachment style, a psychological blueprint formed early in life that dictates how you handle intimacy as an adult. What does this look like in real life? Imagine you're dating someone. Things are going great. You feel a connection. Then they say something like, I really care about you, or I see a future with us. And instead of feeling happy, a siren blares in your head. Your stomach might clench, you suddenly feel suffocated, and your brain starts frantically searching for flaws in them or reasons to just leave. Maybe they chew too loudly, maybe their laugh is annoying. Suddenly the person you were just enjoying becomes a threat to your perceived independence. This isn't about being picky, it's about a deep, often unconscious fear of engulfment. For someone with an avoidance attachment, true intimacy feels like a trap. It signals a loss of autonomy, a surrender of self. You might start creating distance, taking longer to reply to texts, canceling plans, or simply becoming emotionally unavailable. It's like playing a game of emotional hot potato, constantly tossing love away before it burns you. The irony, of course, is that the only person getting burned is often you, and the person who genuinely cares. Where does this attachment style even come from? It often traces back to childhood experiences where primary caregivers were consistently unavailable or unresponsive to emotional needs. Maybe you learned that expressing vulnerability led to rejection or that your needs were a burden. So you adapted, you became fiercely self-reliant, learning to suppress your emotions and depend only on yourself. In a tough world, that was a survival strategy. In adulthood, it becomes a relationship destroyer. The core belief that often fuels avoidance is, I can only rely on myself. This might sound strong, but it's actually a form of deep isolation. Every offer of support, every gesture of love, every attempt to get close gets filtered through this lens of self-sufficiency. You might intellectually understand that someone cares, but emotionally, it feels like a request for help that you're not equipped to give, or a demand on your time and energy that you can't meet. It's less about not loving them and more about a deeply ingrained inability to receive love without feeling overwhelmed. Let's talk about the push-pull dynamic. Avoidants aren't immune to wanting connection. In fact, many crave it deeply. But their comfort zone for intimacy is extremely narrow. They'll get close enough to feel a spark, but as soon as the relationship starts to deepen, as soon as it asks for genuine vulnerability or interdependence, they hit the eject button. Then, once they've created distance, they might feel a pang of loneliness and reach out again, only to repeat the cycle. It's an exhausting dance, a tango with one partner constantly stepping back. So, if this sounds like you, what do? The first step is awareness. Recognizing the pattern is half the battle. This isn't about blaming your past. It's about understanding how your past shaped your present. Then it's about gently challenging those deeply held beliefs. Start small. Instead of pulling away when someone expresses care, try sitting with the discomfort. Acknowledge the alarm bell, but don't immediately act on it. Try to distinguish between a genuine threat and the old, outdated alarm system going off. It won't be easy, but it's absolutely possible to rewire this response. Like and subscribe for more psychological insights that actually make sense. The fascinating, albeit often frustrating, world of the avoidant attachment style. You see, it's not just about running from feelings. It's a deeply ingrained blueprint for relating to others that gets etched into our very being during those crucial early years. Think of it like this. Your brain, in its infinite wisdom and incredible capacity for adaptation, decided at some point that the safest way to navigate the treacherous waters of human connection was to build a really, really tall wall. And then, just for good measure, it installed a drawbridge that's perpetually up, a moat filled with piranhas, metaphorical, of course, unless your childhood was really wild, and a sign that says, do not disturb, seriously, hi. But why? Why would anyone choose to live in such an emotional fortress? Well, it's rarely a conscious choice. For those with an avoidant attachment style, Their early experiences often involve caregivers who were inconsistently available, dismissive of their emotional needs, or perhaps even actively discouraged displays of vulnerability. Imagine being a tiny human, full of big feelings, reaching out for comfort, only to be met with a blank stare, a hurried "not now," or even a subtle message that your needs were a burden. What does a developing mind learn from that? It learns that expressing needs is pointless, that vulnerability leads to rejection, and that the only reliable source of comfort is oneself. So you internalize this message: I don't need anyone, I can handle it all on my own. And thus, the seeds of avoidance are sown. This isn't to say that avoidantly attached individuals don't want connection. Oh, they absolutely do. It's just that their desire for intimacy is constantly battling with a deep-seated fear of engulfment, of losing their autonomy, or of being hurt. It's like having two opposing forces constantly at war within you. One part yearns for closeness, for shared experiences, for that deep human bond. The other part, the well-meaning but ultimately misguided protector, sees any sustained intimacy as a direct threat to your independence, your peace, and ultimately your emotional survival. And guess which part usually wins? The protector, with its trusty alarm system that screams danger every time someone gets too close. Now, let's get a little more granular about what this looks like in practice. When someone expresses genuine affection or tries to deepen the emotional connection, an avoidant individual might experience a sudden, almost visceral urge to create distance. This could manifest in a myriad of ways. Perhaps they suddenly become incredibly busy, their calendar miraculously filling up with urgent, unavoidable commitments, or maybe they pivot to intellectualizing feelings, discussing the dynamics of the relationship rather than actually feeling them. Sometimes it's a subtle shift in conversation, steering away from anything too personal or emotionally charged. And other times it's a full-blown emotional disappearing act, a sudden silence, or complete withdrawal. The humor in this, if you can call it that, is how ridiculously elaborate these avoidance strategies can become. It's like an Olympic sport of emotional evasion. They might pick fights over trivial matters just to create space, or suddenly develop an intense interest in a new hobby that conveniently consumes all their free time. You'll hear phrases like, "I just need my space," or "I'm not good at this relationship stuff," or the classic, "It's not you, it's me," which, while sometimes true, is often a polite way of saying, "My internal alarm system is currently blaring and I need to eject from this situation immediately." It's a defense mechanism, yes, but often a highly inefficient and self-sabotaging one in the long run. The real kicker is that this pulling away isn't necessarily a reflection of how they feel about you. It's a reflection of their internal operating system, a reaction to an overwhelming feeling of vulnerability that closeness triggers. When someone truly loves an avoidant person, it can be incredibly confusing and painful for the partner. They might interpret the pulling away as a sign of disinterest, a lack of love, or even a personal failing. But for the avoidant individual, it's often a moment of intense internal conflict, a push-pull between the desire for connection and the deep-seated fear of it. Like and subscribe for more.